Hi everyone, welcome to the Bravura Solutions session at Fund Forum. I'm sorry I can't be with you today. So my name is Matthew Griffin. I'm the founder and CEO of the 311 Institute and the World Futures Forum, and I look at two kinds of futures. I look at the near and mid future, so that's the next 20 years, and I look at the longer term future because if you're a sovereign government, typically you care what that looks like because you care about the future of jobs, energy, infrastructure, skills, transportation, healthcare, the welfare state, all those kinds of things. So during this presentation, I'm going to be taking you on a rocket ride, basically through the world of disruption and new and emerging technologies. So with no further ado, we have to remember that as investors, every disruption is both a threat, depending on the portfolio that you have, but the larger the disruption, particularly when we start having a look at system-wide disruptions, they're also some of the world's largest opportunities, provided you can spot them. And there are plenty to spot during this presentation. So I'm going to introduce you to
Today, we're all being disrupted. And I'm not just talking about by digital humans like myself with our conversational artificial intelligence, state-of-the-art high-def rendering, and neural networks for brains.
Now, just a number of years ago, Anna wouldn't have been possible. Anna is the combination of increasingly advanced artificial intelligence, more powerful compute, more powerful networks, basically higher definition rendering engines, and all those kinds of things. Now, Anna is a threat if you are in the world of advertising or corporate communications, for example. However, she's also an opportunity because she represents a way for you to disrupt and own the $6 trillion creative industry, which currently employs over 235 million people. Now, she's a digital human, and Cora is one of her friends. Digital friends, obviously. But when we have a look at how these digital humans are already being used in the financial services sector, Cora, for example, is currently working at NatWest. She takes customer inquiries. She can help customers with loans, payments, mortgages, travel advice, and all kinds of things. So digital humans give organizations the ability to extend the human experience at internet scale like never before. Now, you might have seen this. If you follow companies like BlackRock, for example, let alone Jeff Bezos and Amazon, you might see these kinds of letters actually emerging at their usual AGMs. Now, in 1997, Jeff Bezos went to Wall Street and he said, "We will make investment decisions in light of the long-term market leadership considerations rather than short-term profitability considerations or short-term Wall Street reactions." Now, at the time, the vast majority of people in Wall Street thought he was mad. He essentially told them that for 7 years he wasn't going to make them any money, and if they were happy with that, then invest in the stock. If they weren't, don't bother. Now, this is the way that most market incumbents today behave when it comes to market share. 0.5% here, 0.5% there. You grab it from your competitor, you take it back. However, Amazon and other tech giants fundamentally change the game when they enter the market like this. There goes Amazon. Just entered your market. Cats are probably on the ship. Boom! Now, Jeff Bezos, as well as other tech giants, are famous for taking the long view. So they lay their groundwork, they build their foundations, and then all of a sudden they're ready to enter a new market. Now, in Amazon's case, Amazon recently bought Whole Foods. They bought Whole Foods for $13 billion. We saw huge amounts of money wiped off Kroger's, Walmart, and everything else. But Wall Street actually rewarded Jeff Bezos in the same day with a $15 billion payday. Virtually, of course, which meant that he bought Whole Foods for $13 billion and later that day had a spare $2 billion in virtual cash to throw a great big party. So as a consequence, this kind of behavior isn't actually lost on, for example, the Fortune 250. who in 2019 decided that they were going to end or put an end to the concept of shareholder primacy that puts shareholders first. Now, so far, over 181 Fortune 250 CEOs, including Jeff Bezos, Jamie Dimon, who heads up the New York Business Leadership Council, who actually spearheaded this initiative, have actually signed up to this. Now, as investors, this is Titanic. This is your dividends basically going bye-bye basically for a couple of years, depending on the business, and of course. However, it's an absolute paradigm shift in corporate thinking and corporate strategy. Now, from a speed of change perspective, it used to take 75 years to hit 50 million users like the telephone did. We saw Pokemon Go adopted by 50 million users in 19 days. Call of Duty adopted by 100 million users in 6 days. And recently, bearing in mind that we are now at the point where we can transform global industries, including your own in the financial services industry, within a day, boom, comes Facebook. So Facebook launched Libra. Libra was a cryptocurrency. Now, had the regulators approved it, it could have changed, to quote the chairman of the European Central Bank, People's Bank of China, the US Federal Reserve, and of course the Bank of England, it could have changed the state's control of money overnight, and it could have changed the global financial system overnight, because in Facebook's case, they launch a digital product at 9 a.m. in the morning, and by midday, they could have had potentially 3.2 billion people on the planet using their new cryptocurrency. And that cryptocurrency is an anachronism. It could be any digital product or service. But the speed of change today is the fastest that you've ever seen, and it's only getting faster. And every industry is being disrupted, not just the financial services industry. We have the agricultural industry and food production being disrupted. We're seeing chicken nuggets, for example, fillet steak that are now grown in bioreactors or 3D printed at increasingly low cost. We see vertical farms like companies like Aero Farms, who are just simply building up huge, well, in Aero Farms' case, they have 12 stories worth of vegetables growing in essentially just giant warehouses. Now, those farms use 99% less water. They use 100% less herbicides and chemicals. Basically, they're organic and everything else. So from an ESG investing perspective, that's a really good bet there. And ESG investing is something that we might talk about at another time. Now, when we actually have a look at the energy industry, so far we have over 1 trillion watts of renewable energy installed, and it's only accelerating. The cost of electricity generation is also falling through the floor. We're also seeing in the financial services space the development of robo-wealth advisors, DeFi, fintechs of all shapes, sizes and colors. And then, of course, when we have a look at healthcare, we have technologies like CRISPR that we can use to do in vivo gene editing. So if you are born with an inherited genetic disease today, sit in this hospital bed, get put onto an IV drip, have CRISPR literally injected into your veins. Half an hour later, you no longer have that inherited genetic condition because the genetic engineering tool clipped out the bad gene, clipped in a new one. We also have 3D printed human organs. In Israel, they recently 3D printed a human heart, human bones, human cartilage, human skin. You kind of get the idea here. You are replaceable, but in this case, it's a good thing. And then, of course, we have the electrification and the transformation of the entire transportation, logistics and supply chain fleets. So the electrification of aircraft, of vans, of cars, of trucks, of drones, of everything. They're also going fully autonomous. And these are just a couple of industries. But what about the construction industry? What if we could 3D print a building that would normally take us a couple of months to build in a day? And what if we could do it for 90% less cost? I'll show you that in a minute. Now, when we start having a look at energy, for example, we can generate electricity almost non-stop now. We have solar panels that are in the labs that are 48% energy efficient, 80% energy efficient, and courtesy of nanophotonic black silicon, 132% energy efficient. And the cost of electricity generation is reaching zero. And these new solar technologies can actually generate energy when it's raining, in cloudy conditions, and even from ambient light and moonlight. We have 3D printed food and fruit. This one's just a little bit of a sort of funny example, but when we consider new advanced manufacturing technologies, we have new ways to transform our relationship with food. Then that building, print one. So in that case, I can 3D print you a new building on Mars. Alternatively, I can 3D print you a new building in Las Vegas, in the Ukraine, in France, in Holland, in Mexico, in the UK, across the United States, in China, etc., etc., etc. And as we have already done, we have people living in 3D printed buildings, but these 3D printed buildings are printed so cheaply that in some cases in America, the local property prices have halved. Go and check that one out on Zillow. So if you're an investor and you have a giant property portfolio over the next 5, 10, 20 years, these things basically could actually reduce your returns. So you might just want to go and check that technology out. And if you're a bank, then you can change basically how you mortgage things. So in addition to that, when we start switching to space, because we haven't really talked about space or communications, the cost of accessing space has fallen by 99% in over 30 years, or just about 30 years. So now we can transport loads into low Earth orbit for $2,750. We can do turnarounds of a day, basically on the reusable rockets, for example, from Elon Musk and SpaceX, but also Blue Origin, Rocket Labs increasingly, and so on and so forth. This helps us do a variety of new things because, for example, all of a sudden, it becomes a lot cheaper to launch lots and lots of very small satellites into low Earth orbit, as we're seeing with Starlink, and all of a sudden connecting everyone on the planet to the internet. The other 4 billion people on the planet who don't have good internet connections today, we can hook them all up. That's it. And even better, we can hook up somebody who is either in the middle of the Atlantic or in Monaco, basically on their super yacht, or in the middle of the rainforest, basically at 200 megasecond at almost 5G latencies. What does that do? Well, it's an opportunity because you all of a sudden, if you have a digital product or portfolio, you can now sell to another 4 billion people on the planet. I just doubled your addressable market opportunity there. However, as we start nearing the end of this session, and I hope you like it, we have to remember that when we are looking at the future, speed matters. I think you're already, hopefully, getting the idea, basically, that change is faster than ever before. Speed is getting faster as a concept, faster than ever before. The rate of change is also accelerating and accelerating and accelerating. And as for some of those back office functions that you might just sort of want to shy away from or just offload, well, what about this final one? Robo Lawyers. So JP Morgan, a little while ago, used Robo Lawyers, which are essentially artificial intelligence-based robotic lawyers, to review all of their different contracts. And in their case, they saved over 465,000 man-hours of legal time. Now, don't get me wrong, basically at about $350 an hour, that's probably a lot of money that they saved. So I've now reached the end of my presentation. You've got to remember that when you are actually looking at the markets are moving faster than ever before. There are more threats, but more opportunities than ever before. So as a consequence, you need a platform and a partner whose solutions are agile, flexible, adaptable, and can scale when you need them in the way that you need them. So now we're going to be cutting across to an expert panel. I hope you enjoyed my session, And maybe I'll see you all next year. Take care, all the best, goodbye.